Good morning. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order this morning, and welcome. We're going to start by asking Mr. Krause if he'd have a word of prayer for us.
Father, we want to thank you for the gift of life that you bless us with in this community. And Lord, we pray for our meeting that you give us wisdom, that you find us to be good stewards of the people, Father, that live here, Lord. And we thank you for your love. We thank you for the relationships in this room. And Lord, we pray for wisdom. And we ask these things in the precious name of Christ. Amen.
Okay, and if everyone would stand, especially in honor of Veterans Day, we'd like to say the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone should have received the minutes for our last meeting by email. If you need a few minutes to review those, we'll go ahead and open for a motion to approve the minutes. I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, now Bill is going to go ahead and take us through some amendments to the EDC bylaws.
The dual membership that we're moving towards creates a situation where we need to adjust the EDC bylaws. I had a discussion with the Board of County Commissioners at one or two meetings ago and basically told them that we would proffer for their perusal a set of bylaw amendments. They most specifically relate to the appointment of members. And if you will take a moment and I'll go through those so you can gain an understanding of them. If everyone will turn to the bylaws that they have in their packet, the very first change would be 3.03 subsection 1, and we have struck the directors must be residents of Hardy County unless exempt by the Board of County Commissioners. The reason for that is that the superior language that now will set the criteria for EDC members is the statutory membership related to the Industrial Development Authority members. That reads that they have to be electors within the county for which they serve, and that they are appointed by the BOCC, and that they can only be removed for misfeasance, malfeasance, or willful neglect of duty by the BOCC. So the attempt is to make this set of bylaws read concurrent and congruent with the statutory requirements of the Industrial Development Authority membership. The next one would be the numbers of directors. It'd be 3.04. We've changed this language to read exactly like the IDA membership reads. The number of directors of this corporation shall be set at the number of members of the Hardy County Industrial Development Authority. Such number of directors of this corporation shall be congruent and concurrent with the members of the Hardy County Industrial Development Authority as set by the Hardy County Board of County Commissioners. Again, it is to make our membership with the EDC read similar to the statutory requirements of the IDA. Moving on to 3.06, directors, and I've also tried to change as a housekeeping measure, EDC members are referred to as directors, IDA members are referred to as members. That is the statutory reference to IDAs and the bylaw reference to us. So I've tried to make sure that we have, when we refer to EDC members, that they are referred to as directors and IDA as members. Again, we might have more latitude, but the statutory reference, again, is to members for the IDA, so that's why we have the two. This 3.06 subsection 1, thereafter directors shall serve of 4 years each unless appointed to fill the unexpired term of a member. These appointments shall be concurrent and congruent with the membership and appointment of the Hardy County Industrial Development Authority. And then 2 is A director may be removed from office in accordance with procedures for removal from membership of the Hardee County Industrial Development Authority. Up until now, the EDC has had the prerogative of removing its own members. With the dual membership, the membership removal will basically come, the final action of membership removal will come from the Board of County Commissioners. I would expect it could happen two ways. The Board of County Commissioners could take direct action and remove a member on their own prerogative, or this board could take up a discussion related to a member and make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners on the removal of that person for office. It doesn't happen much, but occasionally it can happen. So it is important language, and if you're not comfortable with it, we can take up a debate to alter it in a moment. 3.06(2), and then the balance of it. If a director should miss 3 consecutive meetings, the Board of County Commissioners shall not be notified for consideration of proper action related to continued appointment. The commissioners in the meeting the other night basically said if you miss 3 meetings, you should be removed. I believe that there are certain extenuating circumstances where that, rather than making it an automatic removal, the circumstances need to be presented before the BOCC for them to consider. If you choose to do so in a different manner, when we get done, we'll accept some alterations to this language. 3.07, meetings of the Board of Directors, regular or special, will be held at, this is simply a housekeeping maneuver to, housekeeping, I guess it is a maneuver, will be held at 412 West Orange Street, which is this address because we are now going to be meeting in these chambers. So it's, again, it's just housekeeping. 3.08, regular meetings of the Board of Directors will be held, and rather than 107 Main Street, they'll be held on the second Tuesday of each month at, and it had 8:30, I believe, and we had a board action several years ago to meet at 9 o'clock. I'm not sure exactly what precipitated that. This is another point. If you want to change the advertised meeting time and have it in the bylaws, if you're not comfortable with 9 o'clock, then make a note and we'll take up debate on that point shortly. The other thing is that I have proffered language here that this meeting will be held as a component of the Hardee County Industrial Development Authority agenda or separately agenda as lawfully called and convened. So I'm giving us the flexibility to have one agenda in which the EDC activities are dealt with as a subset of the IDA meeting, or if we need to have a totally separate meeting, then we can do so. So you have an option to do both with this language. 4.03. 4.01, what I have done is taken chairman or designee. Again, these are protocols that we have been operating under. And if you do not want to say chairman or designee, then you can leave it as the chairman. It becomes sometimes onerous for the chairman to do all of the day-to-day rote duties of the organization, and I would recommend that you allow the chairman to have a designee to handle some of these affairs. 4.03 is similar again, and I kind of struggle with this language. The Secretary Treasurer or designee shall be responsible in keeping and reading of the minutes. I'm not sure that is literally interpreted that the minutes have to be read at each meeting. Mr. Evers, you want to comment on that? What protocols are in that respect?
I would consider that as board discretion. If the board, certainly if you, at any particular meeting, if there's a member that missed the meeting and wants the minutes read, I think it's all right to have that language there, but I don't think it mandates reading of the minutes at each meeting. Each member's had the opportunity to review them in advance.
So if reading is appropriate language for the bylaws, if they get them in advance and there is a motion to approve, then that is an acquiescence to the physical reading of the minutes.
I believe it is.
Okay.
Otherwise, a person would be presumed not to make such a motion if they wanted to have the minutes read.
Then the next
One
change,
question.
yes.
Who is the secretary? Do we have a separate person? I'm the treasurer, I'm not the secretary.
Well, I think we refer to you as secretary.
No, I don't think so. I think I'll have Sarah with it. I don't have to be a member to be a secretary. It's something you want to discuss later. Okay?
Okay, and that will precipitate a change.
Yeah, I've got a note on that.
Okay, check that out. Let me get to the last one. 6.02, I believe, is the next adjustment. And basically, we allow a combination of any two officers or the executive director to sign checks. That has been the procedure pretty much since I've been here. I presume it has been accomplished through board action, but I am suggesting that we change the bylaws so that that prerogative is offered to all the members and the executive director.
Do we want to discuss that now or later?
We'll
The
just
language-
come back to it.
Okay,
We'll
the
come back.
language can be interpreted differently.
Okay, we'll make a note of this. The next change basically is contracts, leases, and other instruments executed in the name of and on behalf of the corporation shall be signed by the chairman or vice chairman as approved by the board of directors. And I just felt like that it was important that they be signing documents that had previous formal approval by the board of directors, and that's why that language is there. And then I've said that the minutes may also serve as justification for signing something. If the minutes reflect that there was a motion and an action by the board to direct the chairman to execute a document, that should be a simple enough notification to attach for signature. That's the purpose of that one. And 8.01, the board may amend the bylaws by a 2/3 affirmative vote of all council members. However, amendments related to director membership shall be approved by the Hardee County Board of County Commissioners. That again is saying that other amendments in this document may continue to be altered as they have historically been, but if they affect membership, we're going to bring those before the BOCC. And that is basically the changes. And again, the purpose is so that the membership essentially is handled similarly to the IDA in housekeeping moves. So back to the specific changes. Laura, you had questioned.
Secretary treasurer. I think we're all appointed a different secretary. I'm going to be treasurer. And does it have to be a member of the board, or can it be Sarah, somebody like that?
Ken?
It doesn't have to be a member of the board, but I would caution you, that kind of ties into 6.02, Lori, which was your other comment about signing of checks and that sort of thing. If you have a secretary that's not a member of the board, and I kind of see what you're talking about on 6.02 as well, there kind of being more than one interpretation, I guess.
I think you say, a combination of any two officers, or the executive director signed by himself. You can interpret it that way.
So if you have an officer who's the secretary, who is not a director of the corporation, and you have the possibility of 6.02 having a non-director signature coupling with the executive director and having...
I think 6.02 ought to say combination of any two officers, or an officer and the executive director.
That would probably be advisable. I agree with that.
That would still create the problem, though.
If you
There
have
was somebody not on the board who was the secretary.
Are you volunteering to be secretary?
No.
Lori, can I just mention that in a lot of organizations, somebody might be secretary treasurer. They don't actually personally record the minutes. They're responsible for seeing that they're recorded and that they're reviewed and distributed, but they're not the person who actually records them. They're just responsible for them.
You can have a designee.
Well, it's, the minutes provide for a designee to avoid
And
that
Lori.
situation.
Oh, my goodness.
Not either. I think Sarah is. She could be the assistant secretary.
Well, we have basically been delegating the keeping of the minutes to Christie. Now, again, that designee, there could be more than one designee relative to secretary treasurer duties in this instance. The way I would read this is that the person responsible for the keeping of the minutes shall be the designee for keeping of the minutes, which in this instance is Christie. Relative to accounting issues, that designee may be, in fact, Sarah. So I kind of feel like 4.03 accomplishes that problem, but I'm not clear on the language, Ken, you had just suggested on 6 point.
Well, Lori suggested the language on 602, but what I think he's suggesting, and I concur, is the language ought to read a combination of any two officers or an officer and executive director.
Right.
What he's suggesting is there ought to always be at least two signatures on whatever it is, that the way it's treated with the conjunction or it's executive
by
director
himself.
alone.
So if we add or executive director and one officer,
Right.
is that satisfied? Okay, that is the only change that I've noted so far relative to what was presented. Are there other changes?
If there are no other recommendations, we'll open for a motion to approve the bylaw changes.
Motion to approve the changes.
Motion by Rick,
Second.
second by Bobby. All in favor?
Before you vote, I want to tell you, we're going to send these changes to the Board of County Commissioners, and if they have comments, we will come back and take up their comments one more time. So I just want to make sure that everyone understands that we're going to send this. We could do it as draft form subject to their perusal, or I don't know what protocol is here.
I just walked up because I was going to point that out. I felt like this was basically approving a set of draft changes that are going to go, and then the commissioners are going to have their input, and it may come back to you for final adoption with some sort of tweaks. But I think the motion ought to acknowledge at least that this is a set of draft approvals.
I will amend my motion to approve the draft.
Or submit it to the BFCC.
Yes.
Bobby?
So, that's-
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, we're moving on. Now we need to review related party transaction policy.
The related party transaction policy is another recommendation that has been forthcoming from the Auditor General's review of what we've been doing. We have taken several different related party transaction policies that exist in the domain and tried to craft one that we believe will be most appropriate for us. It is basically a formality at this point. It could become an important document relative to some enforcement, but at this point, I don't have any other proffers for adjustment to this document, and I would suggest as a formality you approve it, and it'll go into our policy book. We have to do the same thing in the IDA meeting, and if we run into issues with it, we'll have to adjust it and amend it as appropriate from time to time.
We're going to review this.
I'll give you a few moments to look at it, and if anyone has any questions, I don't think I need to read the whole document.
Bill, I got a question on, under procedure,
or number 4, where it says payments to the interested officer or director shall be responsible or shall not exceed fair market value. What was the intent for that, or what would be, I guess, give me an example of where that would be applicable?
Could that be construed as something that's not at arm's length?
Well, if you had a member of the board that performed a service for the board, then you would want to make sure that the payment for those services did not exceed fair market value in that particular instance. I think, too, you have to remember that we have statutory requirements for people that serve on boards that compel them legally to state that they have a conflict of interest, and in my mind, it should preclude some of these policies from ever coming into play. But there's a great number of perceptions of conflicts of interest that really, when you ask for decisions on conflicts of interest, you find out that legally they're really not conflicts of interest. But I read this as if it would be someone that's performing a service. It would be how much they're paid for.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll go ahead and open for a motion to adopt the related party transaction policy.
So moved.
Thank you, Doug. Do we have a second?
Second.
Diana? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, now we're going to have Mr. Bond come and join us and give us an update on Continuum Labs in Tech River. Welcome, Mr. Bond.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning. I'd like to give Courtney a chance to pull up our PowerPoint so the rest of the audience can see the presentation. Well, 26 days. It's not been that long. Depending if you're going to count the weekends or not. It's 26 days or it's 4.5 weeks or 34 days that we give credit for Saturdays and Sundays. We said we wanted to come here and create a culture, have a long-term plan and vision, and be a meaningful source of a catalyzing change. What did we do when it came to people? We received 105 resumes so far. We did 90 phone interviews. We've created 10 new careers. Our first offer letter was given. An offer letter is a legal document binding us that if they accepted that we provide the job and we give them certain benefits and so forth. It is an instrument that we're bound by. It is not an informal thing. That was done 72 hours after our last meeting. Heartland has processed all applications. We've utilized every resource that Wauchula and Hardy County has and adopting existing systems to create these new careers. Some fun facts in regards to this. We actually gave out more than 10 offer letters. One person accepted the offer letter, but her employer thought that she was so good that they allowed her to now work from home, something that we said that she would have the flexibility of doing when needed because she had a young child. And they also gave her a pay increase. So that is one of the great processes of recognizing great people, is that their current employer sometimes counters, and we were very, very happy for her. Another fact that's not up here is that one of the people that we gave a job offer to lives in Sebring, and she has now started looking for residence here because she wants to work close to the office. So, so that would make all of our hires being and living in Wauchula. You can see at the below the different color coding of the different jobs as they relate to the departments that we spoke about. So next slide. We think we hit the ground running. Some of you may not know that within a few days after our meeting, we got rid of the blue tar at Preco. We actually put up there what the sign was all about. It is to create a technology center, a tech park. We have quizzed the heck out of the new hires. Tech River is the brand. It is the thing that is owned by Wauchula, in that it is Tech River Technology Park, and that is specific to the building and buildings to come, I foresee, in that area on US 17. We've done various things, everything that we think that Wauchula was doing for its town to foster community, we participated in. If there's some we missed, then, well, we're sorry, but we attended everything. Next slide, please. What did we do when it came to training? So our first day of orientation, we had prepared for. We had really created something that we thought was very, very important. To go back to creating a culture is a thing that is contagious. And one of the things that we have in our culture and our philosophy at the companies that we've all collectively been a part of for the last decade is it is a place to work, and it is a place to share family. It is a place where you enjoy coming to work. And so the first 2 days we brought the new hires to Tampa. They had a chance to see and feel our culture, to meet everyone across the board, to get a sense that they're part of something bigger than themselves, which they are. And so some fun stats regarding that is that they did 2 days there. Then they did 3 days of practical training. We broke them up into 4 teams. They went to lunch together. They used our software, dashes, to create sort of the stories of a fun thing. We had some people, do all kinds of silly things in terms of projects and tell us how you make your favorite meal and so forth. And what I saw on Monday was a bunch of people saying, this is a job I applied for. I'm not really sure what it means in its totality. And I might know some of these people because we went to high school and school together. But when it came Tuesday night, it was a bonded group of people. And for those that are in white shirts over there, those are the new people that have joined Tech River and are Continuum employees. I've seen them gel. I've seen them go through training and Outlook and Agile training and all these other things. And by the end of the week, we had completed 400 hours of training. If you look at that, that's like 2 years of college. We did what we said we were going to do. And then on Friday night, it really came to light to see all the spouses. So one of the things that some people may know in the room is that my last name is Bond. And as a result, I have an affinity to the Bond films. And all my family has, and so we always go to the grand opening of every Bond film, and I've been doing that for a couple of decades. And so it was really neat to see friends and family and spouses of all these other people get together. And it was a great opportunity. And what it shows to a CEO is it working or not? Are you just paying people and they're doing a job, or do they really feel a part of something bigger than themselves? And on a Friday night, it's clear. In Wesley Chapel, where they all came to drive, they were all enjoying themselves. And there wasn't cliques, and there wasn't this group over here, they were a true big family. It looked like a giant family reunion. So it was a lot of fun. And not to mention, if you haven't seen Skyfall, I recommend it. Excellent button film. So what has been going on at the building? I cannot say enough good things about Half Acre and the subs that have been working there. Darren, architect out of Bradenton, these are just great people to work with. We've spent hours and hours walking, changing doors and doing all kinds of things. We think that we took a building which, from a space planning perspective, was pretty much a train wreck in powder blue. And it is 3 buildings built all together at different times. Some of the internal walls are actually old external walls, so they're load bearing. We had some challenges. But what we did is we created, I think, what is a solid space plan to create paying tenants working in a community, in a technology environment, a culture that is contagious, to create a successful financial self-sustaining model that the building will make money, support itself, and will be a good financial prototype for other buildings to come that are multi-tenant and focused on technology. So we're going to look at the next page, and you're going to actually see some of the layout in the color coordinating. But we have 7 potential tenants, 3 of which want to be there and have named themselves out. Rapid Tech, Rapid Systems, and certainly Continuum, the company that we're with. And so, but we have planned for additional spaces. So if you look at some of the blue areas, those areas are executive suites. And so the one here that is on the south side is still a very large space that's available. It's right off the corridor, close to the mini data center that we've now created in there. And then we have 3 other small executive suites. What this does, it is allows 2 or 3 people to come and work in a small office together. They're internet ready. They have VoIP capability. They have the ability to rent additional space within the data center, which, if you can barely see it, is right next to Suite 175. This is an old vault, and next to where the Preco had its servers when they occupied the building. And so now we have configured it in such a way where it's going to have redundant power, redundant air conditioning, and it'll have connectivity. And what we think that this will be is it will fit at least 5 racks, if not more. And a racks is something that's about 6.5 feet tall, holds servers. So it will have enough capacity for the technology infrastructure for the tenants of the building, but it has some expansion capability. So if somebody just wants to put their server there, then they'll have power backup and some of the other things that they wouldn't necessarily have in their own building. So we think that we have an opportunity to create other tenants to come in there physically, but also have other tenants that come in there just from a data perspective. So what is going on from a development standpoint? And we're going to overlay a couple things here, what's going on from a corporate rights standpoint, as well as from the new hires. We have fixed 204 bugs, as well as utilized and tweaked some usability fixes. We have coded for 58 features, 55 designs have been completed, 4 code pushes to production, and 2 App Store submissions. Now I know that most of you do not know what that means. Our new hires can tell you if you want to break in the audience and have them in detail, but this is how this is the dashboard on what you do from a development standpoint. So these are good, healthy numbers. These are things when you think about a button that you push, a field that you type out, something in. These are things that says, you're fixing what you've already put out there. You're coding for new stuff. You're designing ahead of time to give developers enough stuff for them to continue to work on stuff. 4 code pushes like printing a book. How many times did you update the volume, put it in the press, print it, and distribute it? We did that 4 times. And then what are you doing from a mobile standpoint? We did 2 App Store submissions, which is the iPhone store. Android is coming very soon as well. But look at this, 60% of the people that we've hired here that now work in Wauchula are a part of that upper band of stats. They are the ones that are coming into the pipeline, and they will be involved intimately with each of those boxes with their own hands and their own talents. And so we have also recognized that many of the things that we did from a cultural standpoint is that we reinforce the applications that we used. And so it's been real fun to watch Dashes, the application that runs on LifeDash, as being something that has not only allowed them to sort of sharpen their edge and get their feet wet in technology, but at the same time it's built some lasting memories. And it's been very, very fun to sit there and watch not only them as users, but their families come and participate and share memories as well. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. Do any of the board members have any questions about the updates for Travis? We'll be picking up discussion in the IDA meeting about Continuum Labs. If not, we'll go ahead and move on and get into the director's report and update from Mr. Bill.
Chrissy, do I have a copy? That's okay.
We'll go ahead and move on while Bill is locating his notes to the financials, and Lori has some things to share with us about how he's going to switch it up.
My designee.
Your designee, Sarah.
Yep. I think what we want to do, the financial information is presented as a lot of stuff. We're going to number all the financials, just having 1 through 5, 1 through 4. We're going to start with 1 and go through 18. So I'll be able to say to you, look on page 13, this is just saying, so you'll be able to find out where we are. The other thing, we're going to present the information as most business people would present to a bank. You're going to have the financial statement first, the income statement second, and all this other. The third thing will be that banks don't normally require will be the general ledger report, which is fairly detailed and specific. That's where you get most of your information. With that being said, Sarah's going to take over and present the actual data this time. Next time will be a whole lot more, hopefully, in sync.
All right. Your first page should be your balance sheet, and they should be numbered at the bottom for you. So if you look at your balance sheet as of October 31st, 2012, we had $76,728.19 in the bank. We paid out our liabilities of $8,295.44. And our total equity is $68,432.75. If you flip over to page 2, that should be your profit and loss for the month. And so as of October 2012, our total income for the month was $36,600. And then listed below, you will see the monthly expenses for that month. They total $28,049.68.
The 35.6 is income. Explain what that is, please.
Yes. Yes, it is, are you asking, is it
Yeah, no,
income?
I'm saying, explain to the board what that is.
Oh, okay. Of that $1,000 of it shows in rent, and that is Main Street Wachulla's contribution every month that they pay in rent to be in the office space. And then the $35,000 would be a draw from the county and whatever was left over in our bank account at the time. So. And the expenses for the month, again, were $28,049.68. And so it was a pretty normal month. There wasn't anything major for this month. And then behind that, you have your payroll summary, starting on page 3. If you have any questions about that, I'll go over it with you. The rest of the pages are the general ledger and the budget overview. If you don't have any other questions, that concludes the report.
We're looking for a motion to accept the financial report.
So moved.
And do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Are you ready for us to come back to you now? Okay.
What's that?
Skype.
Okay, at this time, I want to give you a little bit of background, then I'm going to introduce Eric. It's really kind of awkward, but it's the best way I could make good use of time. The company that the IDA is going to be considering today was first, the first query was made to me by Roger Hood from Workforce, and this company had been located at the Sebring Airport, and there were some issues related to them being able to find a home for the company. And after talking with Roger and eventually with Mike Willingham, who is the executive director of the Sebring Airport Authority, we began to have some discussions with Dr. Sean Oakham and Eric McCall related to Ion Geo and PFM. And we have some introductory information to PFM and what they do. And at this time, I'm going to ask Sean to come up and give you a synopsis. And this basically precedes the information that will be taken up for debate in the IDA meeting. Eric?
Good morning. Nice to meet you. Glad to be here. We're excited about coming to Wauchula for a automated manufacturing facility. This is a very high-tech, state-of-the-art CNC equipment, which automatically cuts metal and turns them into useful parts. And then robotic arms grab all these parts, take them to the end of the assembly line, and put them together. And in a few minutes, I believe we'll be looking at some video. What we're manufacturing first is a small engine and a small generator. And you would think, well, that's not very glamorous. There's a lot of generators out there already. The difference is our generators are very small and very compact and create an awful lot of power. For example, in a 20-inch cube, we develop 10 kilowatts of power. A 3-bedroom, 2-bath home needs about 6 kilowatts of power on a good, hot, sunny day. And so what we have here is an opportunity to create more power in a small space with fewer moving parts And it's made out of materials that are about 98% recyclable. And the beautiful thing about this opportunity is the people that we put to work in this factory, even though when you say fully automated assembly, that sounds like there aren't any jobs there, but it's clean jobs, green jobs, high-tech jobs, programming the equipment, learning solid modeling, and developing the computer technology to drive the machines and its machine maintenance. So there are some great jobs in this opportunity, even though we're going to be turning out an automated product. Any questions?
Let's show them a couple of quick videos.
Yeah, just to set it up for you, there's going to be several CNC machining centers, and then there's going to be a robotic arm that moves on a trolley across the top, and it reaches down into one piece of equipment and takes the part out and moves it to another piece of equipment. So these run on gantries overhead, and
Got it, turn off.
oh, that's fine. And it gives you a sense of, it's really a lights out operation. I was talking about the factory. Each one of these are machining centers that are about 12 feet high, and that's an arm that picks up material out of one machine, moves it over to another one. And that is the one that does the overhead robotic arms. And the equipment's actually coming out of Germany, a company called MAP. And it's a state-of-the-art CNC equipment center. And we'll have 3 of these lines in our factory in Wauchula.
We've got 2 little clips so you can kind of get an idea of how this machinery works.
If you notice, it can take it from machines on one side, and pick it up and move it around and put it into a machine on the other side. So it's a very versatile manufacturing line.
Dr. Oakham will be calling in on Skype sometime after 10 o'clock, and at that time he'll make an additional presentation that will provide more clarity. But I didn't want everyone, when you take this issue up on the IDA, to kind of have it hit you cold turkey. Do you have any other questions of Eric at this point related to this process? Rick?
Eric, you describe jobs that sound a little specialized in training. Will the local people who perhaps do not have the skills have the opportunity to work in your company and learn the skills necessary to operate the machines or to program the machines?
Yes, the good news is no one knows how to use this equipment. None of it's been in the States before. So we will be running our own training program in-house, and the EDC is going to be working with us to help fund some of that training, but we'll actually be growing our workforce from the ground up. We will bring factory folks over from the manufacturer to help that curriculum be set up and started, but we will be hiring people with engineering degrees, and we will be hiring people with solid model experience, and then we'll also be hiring material handlers who can find the right raw material, the right near net parts, the right castings, and get them in the correct place for the robots to apprehend them and put them in the manufacturer. So yes, there will be a training program, and there will be a way for anyone who wants to be trained in a high-tech environment to come to work.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll take this issue back up in the IDA meeting, and at this time I'll complete the project status updates. Project Evergreen has been a project that's been before this board before. It continues to move forward. They are extremely interested in having formal audiences with landowners in order to find an appropriate site to locate this project. I believe it will move forward. The company is very real, and they have a very significant operation. So I kind of expect it to be taking an increasing amount of my time in the upcoming months. And frankly, I'm kind of pleased and excited if we get this opportunity.
Remind us again about Evergreen as much as you can share.
Evergreen is an agricultural project that basically will run about $200 million and provide 400 jobs with an average wage of around $30,000 a year, inclusive of retirement and health care. They produce an agricultural product that is needed by agricultural product distributors in the area.
Consumable.
Consumable.
And this is, they have operations already.
They have operations. We've been to those operations. Ron Hall and Paul Samuels and I had traveled out to one of their operations in Tampa. I mean, from Tampa to Texas, and it is absolutely like nothing you've ever seen before. They give new meaning to technological interfacing of agriculture. So stay tuned, and it's just kind of been held up in some land transactions, and both CF and Mosaic are moving to a position where we can begin formal negotiations with them. And both companies have been very cooperative. Fort Greene LNG, Commissioner Bryant and I had lunch with them last Monday. They basically believe they will have the right people to build their project shortly. They have had them to the site. It's a large project, a lot of details to work out, but the dynamics for further exploitation of natural gas in America are upon us. And I believe that because of the intersecting natural gas lines there and the dynamics of the site, there is a high probability that this project is going to move forward. And if it does, the job creation is probably not that great, but the tax base potential, especially for the schools, I'm sure they'll ask for some abatement, but the tax base creation for the schools would be really good. So, and it will also open up ancillary markets for us to exploit as a community, because we'll now have a new source of energy that we'll find users for. So, you know, keep your fingers crossed on this project, and it is real. And developers are real, and the people they're recruiting are real. Trust me, they're very real. So, National Solar, still out there. I believe that the election may or may not enhance them. I kind of suspect that the administrative agenda at the national level is going to continue to press for alternative energy, and that solar will find some place. But I personally feel like the copious amounts of natural gas have made solar non-competitive in the marketplace, but they continue to tell me they're going to move forward. We will know if they close on the property they've optioned at Holly Hill in the next 30 days, and that'll be a precursor to whether or not they're going to actually build this project. So keep your eyes on it. Remember, the IDA has allocated $250,000 to them with some benchmark performances, and we'll be watching, and I'll keep you posted if something ever happens on it. NutriPure continues to grow in Hardee County. And they are working on the plans for their new campus, which is on the 8 acres they purchased from the IDA last year. And I expect NutriPure to continue to grow and expand their product line here in Hardee County. They're a good company, good pedigree, sound recruit for us, and kudos to those of you, Lori, especially, that work so hard with organics, and it's beginning to pay off for us.
How many jobs do they have out there, you know?
Around 20. But, you know, they have an obligation to bring Seychelles here and the soap company, and they have moved a lot of that operation into this building downtown, which is in preparation of vacating that building so that they can retrofit it for the soap manufacturing company. So that too will happen simultaneously with the development of the campus. Terviva, the only interesting comment I have on that is with the collapse of Versipia, which was the BP cellulosic ethanol project in Highlands County. I put Terviva in touch with South Florida Community College because they have a National Science Foundation grant for $1 million. I just happened to know they had that grant, and I also knew that Terviva had a National Science Foundation grant. The two entities are now working together to see if the grant can be applied to furthering the study of the markets for Terviva. And if it works, we may have one of the first credible alternative crops for citrus that doesn't disenfranchise caretakers and conventional harvesters. There will still be a need for that. And the crop is really very similar. I'm concerned about cold hardiness with Pongamia pinnata. I believe that it may very well not survive here, but there are areas further south in the citrus belt that it can survive. And the only way we're going to find out about these products is if we have someone doing research and development. So I keep it as a possibility for growers in Hardee County, Highlands County, DeSoto, and points further south. And we won't stop looking. We will continue to find other types of agricultural diversification. Lightning Bay is kind of on hold. It's a hold that I have asked them to take relative to the order of occupancy of buildings. They are still very anxious to move to Hardee County, but they had not planned on beginning their operations in Hardee County until August or September of 2013. The opportunity with PFM has come about, and we are proffering to do a switch on buildings to allow PFM to take the initial occupancy, because they really have to have a home for their equipment by the end of the first quarter of 2013. There would be no way we could start over permitting, getting Swift Mode approvals, and meet those time frames without getting the swap in Tennessee on the buildings, and Lightning Bay has been very gracious and honorable in allowing us to do that. Keyplex, just as an update, is doing very well. Their sales are growing. They're very pleased with their facility, and hopefully they will continue to grow and gain increased market share, because that will be more important to the development of the economy of Hardee County. The Sheriff's Command Center, the walls are up. I believe they were going to be pouring the lintels, Greg? Today.
Yes.
And then the trusses will be set shortly, and it's going really well. I'd hope to have some kind of groundbreaking ceremony, but maybe we'll have to have a ribbon cutting, because they're going to have it built before we can do a groundbreaking. But it is moving at a fast pace. The Commerce Park expansion, it is upon us. We are working on coming to you with some reasonable proposals. I will tell you that I had a good conversation with Ken, County Engineer Ken, somebody help me. Wheeler. I wanted to say Williams. Ken Wheeler, and he is going to propose to the BOCC to get authorization to begin construction of the next retention pond, which is across the creek, and we will be divvying up some of that soil. They will need some at the landfill. The bulk of it, of course, will stay on site for our future site development, but there are portions of the excavation that can better be used by the county, and we'll be coming back to the IDA with a proposal on exactly how that's going to work. And BOCC, I believe, is taking that issue up in their meeting on Thursday. Anyone have any objections to that? The county dug the previous retention pond, and they will be working with us on this one. Expansion of water and sewer. I had a meeting with City Manager Ashley last week, and we've just been, all of us have been really jammed up, but we will begin the formal implementation of how we're going to use the initial EDA grant shortly after the first of the year, and there'll be other reports forthcoming related to that project. Bio-nitrogen, is Brian here? Stephen is here. There will be a bio-nitrogen presentation in the IDA meeting. It continues to move forward at a very rapid pace. Kudos to you, Stephen, and those people you've been working with. But I really feel good about bio-nitrogen. Can't tell you for sure and certain yet that it's going to be built, but it looks better every day. So again, this specificity to that situation will occur in the IDA meeting. JDC phosphates, I will tell you, I met with Enterprise Florida bond people last week, and it was kind of interesting because we I've had JDC phosphates and bio-nitrogen in our office on multiple occasions, and the Enterprise Florida folks are extremely excited about both of those projects. And I really believe JDC phosphates has its niche in the marketplace. We will know in the next 3 or 4 months if they can prove up their process, and if that happens, we will have some type of competitive situation on whether or not we get the large plant or Polk County gets the large plant, and we have to be prepared to be aggressive and outcompete them. But we've laid the predicate for them to come to Hardy County. They have thus far had a great, not a partner, but a great relationship with CF Industries, and I believe you will see more and hear more of JDC phosphates as we move forward in the future. You've heard from Tech River, and there will be additional Tech River discussion in the IDA meeting. The mitigation with CF Industries, Ken Evers and Lex and I have met with Ken Grimes and Ben Albritton related to tweaking the local bill so that there are no issues with the CF contribution going to the Economic Development Authority. Those tweaks need to be presented at the legislative delegation hearing on December 11th, and we will have something ready for consideration at that time. And EDA will take up the debate. They are an independent special district, and they'll deal with the nuances of how they want to tweak their language after listening to basically Ken Grimes. And of course, Ben Albritton will probably chair the delegation meeting this year. And Ben also has been in touch with our new state senator, Galvano, and I don't really anticipate any problems making this happen. The USF tourism study, Casey's going to have a report on that in the IDA meeting, and we are still awaiting responses from the Auditor General on the Auditor General's audit that was done through August and September and October, maybe November. We have almost completed the financial audit for 2012, and it should be available for the meeting in December, no later than January. It is not due this year until June 30th. So we're ahead of the game, we're not behind the game. And that concludes my report.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned JDC phosphate.
Yes.
Had you ever expressed what that is to the board?
No, but I can.
Would you please?
Basically, as the phosphate reserves, and Donna, you can raise your hand and correct me if I misstate any of this, but as we move further south, there is an increasing amount of magnesium in the matrix, and there is material that is generally referred to as high mag or reject rock that is typically, it has phosphate in it, it has recoverable phosphate, but the normal and usual beneficiation processes that are utilized by the mining industry preclude them from being able to use this rock. CF has been stockpiling and has a massive pile of this rock. I'm sure that Mosaic probably has rock. They also know where they have put it back in reclamation so it could essentially be recovered a second time. But the process is fairly simple in that they take the reject rock, mix it with sand and clay. They crush it, homogenize it, mix it with sand and clay, and turn it into little marbles, balls. They are then fed into a kiln and are hit with 1200 degree heat. At 1200 degrees, the elemental phosphate in the rock begins to burn itself. As it burns, it creates its own heat. The heat then causes the elemental phosphate to turn into a gas. The gas escapes into a distillation process, and the yield is phosphoric acid. The balls then, after the heat, are kilned, and they have an aggregate quality that we believe can be used in road construction, pavers, concrete, substitutes for Bill's skull.
Bill, they do have a website. I don't know what it is, but they have a website, I believe, that people could go to. You might find it and share it.
Okay, yes, I'll do that. But they're really, you know, Tip Fowler is just got to be one of the nicest people. Again, Commissioner Bryant and I have met with them, and they're pretty exciting.
There's no gypsum.
And there is no, that's a great point.
Yes.
There's no gypsum, and the radiation in the final product is less than background radiation of normal, wherever, normal ambient background radiation.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
If there are no other questions, comments, or announcements, we'll be adjourned, and we'll take a 5-minute, Jim, 5-minute break
Yeah, we need to get
so that we
started.
can begin the IDA meeting.